It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, and we are live on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel right here on a Monday evening. I hope you guys had a great start to your work week. We're getting closer to the holidays, so I can tell you that Out of Pocket will be on air today, tomorrow, Thursday, potentially Friday. But as we get closer to the holiday season, you may see some, changes to our schedule, which will update you on our social media channels. Later on, I am going to welcome in my broadcast partner from this past weekend, Squared Circle Champions for December Destruction. If you guys were in the Ferguson, North Carolina area and came to that, thank you so much. I know some of you came up, took pictures with us, talked to us. Shout out Zach, shout out Alan, shout out Taylor. I'm trying not to forget anybody who came up and said, hey, what's up? Really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting SCC. And I'll update you guys when the next show is. But we'll welcome Shannon to talk a lot. We got NBA news. We got the Heisman Trophy winner announced this past weekend. We got two major injuries impacting two of the top contenders for the Super Bowl. And then we still have football, not one, but two Monday Night Football games a little later on. We'll break it all down. We have an action-packed hour. And you know how I love to start. Mondays after the weekend. We do a little thing called Homer's House where I cover some of my favorite teams. That way, I'm not responding to all these individual texts. And a lot of the time, it's been a rough time to be a Cowboys fan. I know, I understand. And getting all the ribs, getting all the jabs. Well, I live in the North Carolina area, and the Dallas Cowboys were in town. And I swear, all of my fake friends were at the game and never invited me. So to that, do what you will. I would have loved to have went if you guys could have made it happen, but obviously you didn't. But the Dallas Cowboys did emerge victorious 30-14 over the Carolina Panthers. They did it without DeMarvion Overshown, who left last week's game with a serious, significant knee injury. And we also did this with Trayvon Diggs, who was ruled out of this game and has also been ruled out for the season. Apparently, he was playing with fluid in his knee. A scary situation. And Trayvon honestly put up a big fight. And I do want to touch on those injuries, but I do want to briefly touch on the Cowboys-Panthers game. Dallas ended up winning 30-14 on the road. And everybody was disrespecting the Dallas Cowboys this week. And I understand they haven't had a strong season as many people would have hoped. I mean, and they lost 5 straight to the Lions, to the 49ers, to the Falcons, to the Eagles, to the Texans. And I understand why you would say, hey, well, Dallas isn't doing great, and they're not scoring on offense, and they're not stopping anybody on defense, and they're looking at first top 5 pick, and da-da-da-da. I get it. Believe me, that San Francisco 49ers game was tough. That Falcons game was tough. Not putting up any fight against the Detroit Lions, losing by 38 points was tough. Following that up with Cooper Rush's first game, 2 yards a pass attempt against the Eagles and a huge loss. The Houston Texans just absolutely destroyed. Like, the games you want to win against teams like the Detroit Lions, the 49ers, the Eagles, the Texans, the ones that really, strike your pride, they weren't winning. And this team has not been healthy a lot of the year. You look at their depth chart, you look at their offensive line. I don't know if they've had a stable unit at the offensive line all year. I don't think they've had 4 of their top defensive ends most of the year. Micah Parsons is really the only one there. Nealon missed most of the year. Sam Williams tore his ACL. DeMarcus Lawrence has been out, hasn't been back yet. Carl Lawson was signed off the practice squad. I mean, Dallas has had their own things to overcome this year. And I'm looking at this team, and they are 6-8 right now. They've won 3 of their last 4 after dropping 5 straight when they were 3-2 at one point in the season after a big win in Pittsburgh on a Monday midnight football game. But you're telling me if the Cowboys don't have a punt gaff with the block punt, Aruarie tries instinctively to grab the ball, doesn't get it. The Bengals are able to recover, and Jamar Chase scores a game-winning touchdown. This team is 7-7. If that doesn't happen, they would have won 4 straight, 2 against division rivals, 3 against the conference, and they would actually be looking at sliding in at number 7 in the wild card race. That's what Dallas would have been set with. They would have been 7-7. They would have been tied with the Arizona Cardinals, who were just a couple spots out of the wild card race. Right now, Minnesota and Detroit guaranteed to have that spot. Green Bay Packers close to clinching. The Washington Commanders sitting there at number 7. Dallas, I don't think they could catch Washington. I don't think they could catch Seattle. And then you have guys like the Falcons and the 49ers that have tiebreakers over Dallas based on their head-to-head matchup. And that's totally fine. And Jason from 3 from Deep, he dropped his NBA podcast earlier this this afternoon at 12 p.m. Here we go. You beat the Panthers, RELAX. This is the point. Everybody was disrespecting the Dallas Cowboys, and I was the only person on the panel last week to pick the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Carolina Panthers. I was the only one. I'm just saying the Cowboys, with how much fight they've had, has been awesome. And it's really making me think that Mike McCarthy could come back next year, but they'll be without DeMarvion Overshown, mostly for all of 2025, which stinks because 2 of his first 3 years in the league, he would have missed with a significant knee injury. They've lost Trayvon Diggs, who may be back at the start of the next season. Who knows if it'll be a Deron Bland situation where he misses much of the time. Drew Code Sports Talk was on Friday's show. Reluctantly, you pick your boys. I didn't reluctantly. I was like, I'll take it. I'll be the lone wolf. I'll take it. Chris DeLuca from Dugout Debrief. Worst part of the win is McCarthy may return. Let's throw that back up there. This is the point I wanted to make before I welcome in my guests here in a couple minutes. Mike McCarthy had 3 consecutive 12-win seasons. The only 2 seasons he hasn't accomplished that was his first year, getting adjusted with COVID, and then this year, riddled with injuries. So were the injuries the sole reason why the Dallas Cowboys are 6-8 right now? No. Will Dallas win out to be 9-8 and have a winning season? Probably not. You look at the Buccaneers, you look at the Eagles, you look at the Commanders. They're fighting. They're all fighting for playoff standing. It's going to be tough. This might have been Dallas's last win this year was against the Panthers, but I know the team and I know the players want to keep Mike McCarthy, and they've spoken about it. So, seeing how much time Jason Garrett got in Dallas, and not even warranted. He had 8-8 seasons consecutively. But Mike McCarthy could be in a position to where he has another year. Is Jerry willing to sign a 1-year deal as another prove-it year? Who knows? Are they able to sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal, not guaranteeing the last couple years to get out of that situation? Who knows? Jason, this week, look at tapes. Cowboys are who we think they are. Bottom feeders, says the Giants fan. And Drew Code Sports talk, but does McCarthy want to come back and deal with Jerry's drama? Again, it would have to be a two-way street. That's why you would entice McCarthy to stay, give him a 2 or 3 year contract and see how it goes. We've seen teams get out of those contracts before. It's no stranger. But let me just say, Dallas, as much as I hated a month ago when we had lost 5 straight, there was no fight. And now, as people are getting healthier, as they're getting their confidence and their mojo and they're learning these schemes, and you have players playing hurt like Trayvon Diggs has been, you have players playing hurt like CeeDee Lamb has, you have these guys struggling health-wise, and they're still putting in effort out. I think that says a lot about the mental psyche of this team. Worst of Jason Garrett's fear, NFL extend the season 17 games because he won't be able to go 8-8 again. Comment of the year, Chris DeLuca right there. Yeah. Jason's like, can I tie? Can I tie? But guys, the only reason I was happy about this weekend and this game was, it was Dallas winning. I could have enjoyed a better draft pick. Potentially getting the Heisman winner, Travis Hunter, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I had made a bet on Saturday night that if the Carolina Panthers had beaten the Dallas Cowboys, then I would not have been hosting Out of Pocket today. It would have been this guy. It would have been my guest. It would have been the host of Quick Hits, my broadcast partner from Squared Circle Champions, podcast _ Smitty. Now I'm glad he's not hosting because he's sleeping on the job right now.
Whoa, sorry. I heard Cowboys talk and I went to sleep. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that, everybody. How y'all doing?
Well, I'm doing good. And you know what? If you had hosted the show, you could have talked about whatever you wanted to.
Oh man, that was the greatest nap I had, y'all. Y'all don't understand. That was a wonderful nap. I appreciate the time. I'm ready now. So
you're good. Get those stretches out, you rebel. You rebel. I did mention the Heisman Trophy. I do want to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the Monday Night Football games. There were a couple big significant injuries that happened this weekend. But Jason dropped 3 from deep earlier today. And so I need to include some NBA stuff for our NBA people. And the Philadelphia 76ers themselves have had significant injuries to literally everybody. Everybody. Jared McCain just got hurt. You've had basically everybody in their rotation except for 3 be hurt. Joel Embiid out another week with a sinus fracture. Shannon, you and I were talking about this Saturday night when we were commentating SEC, what Philadelphia needs to do, because you look at this team and they were stacked and they were like, oh, we could win the East because we got Joel Embiid, we got Paul George coming in, Tyrese Maxey is emerging. Like everybody was super excited. And that's just not the case in Philadelphia anymore. I got to ask, like, we've only seen one game that Maxey, George, and Embiid, that big 3, has completed. We've only seen 3 games where they've been on the court with each other. Is this already not working out as the team is 7-16 this year?
As much as I would like to throw the baby out with the bathwater, yep. And I watched that today, by the way, too. Good episode, Jason. Appreciate that, man, for real. But
I stole his idea. Sorry.
Right. Oh, no, you're good. But as much as I would like to just get rid of it and everything and say blow it up, I would say blow it up after the All-Star break. I mean, wait for this to go into it. But right now, it ain't looking good because this looks like Clippers 2.0. This is what it looks like with Kawhi and Paul George and James Harden. It looks like that. I think it's evident that Embiid wants out of Philadelphia. I think it's evident that he does. Jared McCain, I would say build around him. I hate that he got hurt. I don't applaud anybody getting injured. It doesn't matter who it is. I don't applaud anybody getting injured. But when you have the same guys getting injured over and over again, it's a cause of concern. I mean, and Paul George got paid a pretty good sum of money to come to Philadelphia. And it just doesn't look good for Philadelphia at all. You know, they're talking about, Embiid's going to be back. Embiid's going to be back. Embiid's going to be back. And then he comes back only for a few games. And then after that, it's right back to the injury list. It's right back. You know, it's day to day. It's week to week. It's month to month. And you're just like, man, you know, Philadelphia's getting impatient. Jason said in one of his episodes of Three from Deep, you know, the trust the process era is done. So I think it's a wrap after this year.
Speaking of Jason, the host of Three from Deep, calling saying Sixer fans delusional, always win before the season starts and making excuses when it poops the bed. Jason's being a little out of pocket right now.
I saw that episode. I actually laughed at that episode when he put that down there. You know, he makes a good point, but I would say that the last delusional NBA fans were Bulls fans, and I hate to say that because I'm a Bulls fan, and I'll be talking about my Chicago Bulls on Quick Hits tomorrow. That'll be something to talk about as well too. But I think the last ones were my Bulls fans, and I hate to say that. Now they really can't say it now because the squad is not great, and so. But the Sixers basically, they are making excuses though, for real. It basically is that. So he's on to something. He's not entirely wrong, but they are making excuses. And I think that era is going to come to an end. Everybody's expecting more from them earlier. So, and they didn't get that because, you know, the Eastern Conference was at a point in time up for grabs. They just have not been able to grab those brass rings.
And it's been tough if you're, I mean, Shannon, your and my NFL teams have been riddled with injuries. I'm sure people are like in Philadelphia and they're like, what's going on? Like, why can't we stay healthy? But you look at Joel Embiid, like his body seems to be breaking down. Paul George, you know, we mentioned the Clippers. He just stays hurt or he does load management. Either one of those, depending on how he feels that day. Caleb Martin, a free agent acquisition. He's out right now. You got Kyle Lowry aging. There's so much talent on this team. So like putting this squad together, I'm sure 76er fans would like to see what it amounts to. But at the same time, Joel Embiid's not getting any younger. Paul George isn't getting any younger. I mean, this might be, as weird as it is to say, like your most opportune time to get them dealt. Obviously, Embiid not being able to trade until after the season's over. That's when he's eligible because of his contract. It's weird because it's like, do you have that team together another year or two to see what they look like healthy, or they're like, hey, let's just cut our losses?
It's wishful thinking from here on out because it just seems like that. It's wishful thinking. Like, you know, Paul George has had injury troubles. Joel Embiid has had injury troubles. Then, you know, McCain, I hate that for him, you know, with him being so young because he was looking like he was putting up a good argument for Rookie of the Year early this year. But it's just, you know, there's no time. There's no time. I mean, Philadelphia should have been where Boston was. They should have been where Cleveland is right now. They should have been up there already. There should have been more wins than what Philadelphia 76er fans got. There should have been more wins. There should have been more stuff that went on because Philadelphia, when they were on, they were on. Their best chance was winning was when Jimmy Butler was there. In my opinion, that was the best time that they were to win, and that didn't happen then because there were troubles with Joel Embiid being healthy, and Jimmy was just pretty much on the island looking around at everybody like, who's here? He's better off in Miami, which it doesn't matter where Miami goes. He's better off there than he is in Philadelphia. So this is not – it was good he got out when he did. So, you know, sorry, Philadelphia.
Hey, I'm glad he ended up in Miami. I'm glad Shan's like acknowledging, hey, he deserves to be in Miami. Jason brings up a good point. The East is deep. look at the teams that are above the Philadelphia 76ers. I'll go in order. Shannon mentioned Cleveland and Boston, but then you have New York Knicks who have stacked their team. But then you have the Orlando Magic, a younger team, who's also dealing with a couple injuries now as of the last few days. Franz Wagner, he's out right now. Miami, who's also tried to just get things going. They're on a 4-game win streak right now. Milwaukee turning things around. They've won 8 of their last 10 after struggling early. The Atlanta Hawks, where did Trae Young come from? He's willing themselves right now. And then you have the Pacers. You have your Bulls, who aren't even doing that hot. And then you get the Brooklyn Nets. You get the Detroit Pistons. All of these teams are doing better, significantly better than the Philadelphia 76ers right now. That's concerning.
Very concerning. Very.
When you get to Detroit and Brooklyn doing better than Philadelphia with the amount of talent Philadelphia has, I'm sorry, Shannon. That's
hilarious.
That's sad.
Hilarious. It is freaking hilarious. I mean, for real, like Detroit set the record for most losses consecutively. The Brooklyn Nets gave away everything they had. And Philadelphia thought that they cashed in during free agency, and come to find out they can't field the guys that they have on the floor. So when you're looking at that and you're seeing that, yeah, it's time to change things around. It's time for a shakeup. And if that is the way that it is at the end of the season, forget about it.
Forget about it. Now, I will not forget who won the Heisman Trophy this year and this weekend. Travis Hunter, the two-way star from Colorado, won the Heisman Trophy. He beat out Boise State's Ashton Jeanty. He beat out Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. And he also beat out Cam Ward. And Cam Scabo actually finished 5th in voting, but he didn't make the trip up. It was Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel, and Ashton Jeanty. But Travis Hunter won it. Shannon, you and I were talking a little bit on Saturday of your thoughts. I'm personally an advocate for Travis Hunter. We haven't seen an athlete like Travis Hunter in quite some time, to where he plays both sides of the football. I'm genuinely impressed with how he handled everything. Some of his stats from this year alone. This year, he had 92 catches, over 1,100 yards, and 14 touchdowns receiving. And then when it came to defense, he had 31 tackles, 11 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, and a forced fumble as well. I was okay with Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. Were you?
I'm okay with it. Although I'm really big, I've been big on Ashton Jeanty all year. I've been very big on him. He's the best running back in the nation. I was wanting him to win, but like I put on one of my episodes of Quick Hits, the very minute that Ashton Jeanty won the Maxwell Trophy, that to me told me that Travis Hunter was winning the Heisman. There's not really been players that have won the Heisman and the Maxwell in the same year. There's not been many. I got to look back on that. Don't quote me on that, but I got to look back on my stats and see. But when I saw that Ashton Jeanty won the Maxwell Trophy, I was like, Travis has won the Heisman. I felt that way, but I did want Ashton Jeanty to win it. I felt like he was the better player, like in the nation, like as a whole. He was the best running back in the nation, and I'll run this by you right here. Ashton Jeanty led the NCAA in carries with 344 and tied for most rushing touchdowns with 29. He tied with the young man at Army, who was the quarterback. He tied with him for most rushing touchdowns. Ashton Jeanty scored 3 or more touchdowns in 7 games this year. 3 or more. And, it was a game where he scored 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns on the ground. So I'm looking at that like, man, come on. And he led the NCAA in rushing yards. He was the second place guy. Trailed him by 897 yards. And here comes the fun part right here. The second place running back in the nation wore a Tar Heels jersey. Omarion Hampton, how you doing? So, but with that being said, he led that much. The margin was there for him being the best running back in the nation and being the best player. You take away from that Boise State squad. Boise State doesn't have the Mountain West Championship. They don't have the first round bye. I bet you that. I guarantee that 250%. They had the defense, and Maddox Madison played very good as a sophomore quarterback, but I do not see them doing anything without Ashton Jeanty there. That's debatable with Travis Hunter. It's debatable with him. Now, Travis Hunter wasn't even the best receiver in the nation. Young man from San Jose State had more catches, more yards, led the NCAA in more catches, more yards. But here's one thing I also want to bring up as well, too. I don't want to take so much time. I can go on and on about this. But here's what needs to be said. Two things. Number one, I'm glad, thank God they didn't give it to a quarterback. Praise God that it happened.
Oh, yeah. They didn't deserve it. I thought Cam Ward was going to make a push, but there were just a couple games where Cam Ward kind of disappeared. So it was obviously Jeanty and Hunter were the top two.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm okay with it. That's one of the main reasons why I'm okay with it. Another reason why as well, too, it was kind of a double-edged sword for Travis Hunter to win the Heisman Trophy, because if he won it, if he didn't win it, there will be people out there saying, well, nobody wanted Coach Prime to get any love or any shine whatsoever. There will be people out there saying that. And now there are people out there saying, oh, well, the reason why he won is because the Coach Prime effect. Leave his coach out of it. Leave Coach Prime out of it. Yes, he's a high-profile dude. Yes, he's a game changer at the coaching position. But don't take anything away from that young man. Don't take anything away from him. Now, mind you, Deion Sanders believed in this kid. Bought him from Jackson State and put him in Colorado. Took his son's players that he had at Jackson State and put them in that limelight, and they were able to perform. And Colorado, remember, was a one-win team. They almost played for a Big 12 championship. That Big 12, they were not supposed to win the Big 12 or get close to it, and they almost got there. They were in that four-way tie. But that's one of the things that I'm kind of like, leave that young man alone. Yeah, his coach is his coach. I get it. But that young man deserved everything that he got. And I'm glad he did win it. It was great that he won it. I'm glad he didn't give it to a quarterback. I felt like Jeanty deserved it, but I'm not hurt by this at all. Not at all. Yeah,
and that's good, because I'm glad it didn't go to a quarterback. And we've had some comments pour in. Chris DeLuca being one, both are equally deserving and would have won without controversy in any other season. It's just unfortunate both had such fantastic years. And he says Jeanty did more for his team individually. I would say that's debatable. Playing both sides of the football, pretty unprecedented. Just like Chris mentions here, being a two-way player and elite at both positions. And that's why I'm okay with the argument of Travis Hunter wasn't the best receiver in the NFL or in the college ranks, or he wasn't the best corner. Well, he was pretty good, pretty great at both of them. And to play both sides of the football at his caliber of level, we just haven't seen it, honestly, since Deion. We haven't seen it since Deion, and I think that needed to be recognized. And he got it recognized because of the Heisman. And this isn't to crap on Ashton Jeanty. Nearly 2,500 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns, 7.3 yards a carry. Guys, that is unbelievable. That is unreal if you think about the weight of that. But Travis Hunter playing both sides of the football did really good. Jason commenting, Deion shouldn't have been plastered on TV as the way it was sold. Hunter, a great player, but not the best. And again, that's debatable. Depend on how you guys see it. Ashton Jeanty being the best running back versus Travis Hunter playing both sides at a high level. This was definitely one of the better Heisman races in of itself. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Travis Hunter taking home the Heisman. What a guy, playing both sides of the football. But I'm curious, Shannon, is he going to play both sides of the football in the NFL?
I doubt it. It's going to be one of those make a choice kind of things, because think about if he did play both sides of the ball and he exceeded expectations, the money that kid would make. Oh my God, that would be insane. So that's why I think the reason why he gets in the NFL, and plus it's not feasible in the NFL in my opinion. I don't think it's feasible because you're going to be going up against the best talent, the best of the best. You've got to be careful playing both sides of the ball, taking numerous hits that he's taken at the cornerback position. No, you're not one of the most best skilled tacklers out there. However, you're still taking hits as a receiver. Even if you're one of the best receivers out there, you're taking hits. You're probably taking more hits as a receiver as a corner, but that's debatable depending on how the offense and defense is played. So I really don't see that a lot. But man, can you imagine sports science going nuts over this? The head trauma that this young man would be taking from playing both sides of the ball. It's gonna be like he will be like a scientific experiment. He will be a lab rat, and that I really don't want for him because it's kind of taken away from the game. If he wants to be that, then I get it. But this is going to be more. The safety issue is going to be there. Him playing both sides of the ball, but I believe he'll be one side and one side only.
And Deion Sanders ended up doing the cornerback route after playing both in college. No two ways in the NFL unless Ohtani decides to have a career change. And Chris is like, please don't. Shohei Ohtani literally does it all. He's literally the definition of a unicorn.
He's the Japanese Bo Jackson, man. That's what he is. He's the Japanese Bo Jackson.
Dude, it's absolutely wild. And then the other side is like Travis Hunter playing both sides of the football, but Ashton Jeanty took a lot of carries. Again, 344 carries this year, totaling 720 carries through a 3-year career at Boise State. I know a lot of teams in the NFL like his talent, like his upside, but that is a lot of damage to take in the NFL. Do you think that scares some teams with the mileage he brings?
It shouldn't. I don't think it should because depending on where he plays, I don't think it should be an issue. I mean, the young man's a junior, which on top of that too, he's a junior. He played 3 years of college football, so he didn't play 4 years. He played 3 years of college football. So I don't think that's a cause of concern. And with the way that the NFL is right now, they're not as run heavy, but also take under consideration of this as well. Some of the best teams in the NFL right now have running attacks. Yeah, they may have quarterbacks that are killing it right now. Detroit has got a great passing game. Minnesota has a great passing game. Buffalo has a great passing game. But the running game is still vibrant and alive and well in the NFL. And I think that Ashton Jeanty would thrive. I want him to go first round. I would love to see him go in the first 10 picks. Will that happen? Maybe. But I don't know if teams are invested in taking a running back early because Bijan Robinson did go early.
That's why I was thinking. I think he was the last top 10 pick.
Yeah, and look what's happening with him. Like they're hardly even using the guy, and I don't know why they're not pulling the trigger on this young man. I mean, they should right now with the way that Kirk Cousins is playing right now in Atlanta. I mean, come on, man. I mean, and think about him and Penix Jr. being together now. I mean, that's another cause. That's another thing to think about as well too. You know, those two young men together. You know, if Penix Jr. is able to get his feet out in front of him as a quarterback in the NFL with the way that him and Bijan Robinson could work, it's a possibility, man.
Dude, I would love to see it. Falcons have actually dropped 4 straight. Saints, Broncos, Chargers, and then this past game, I'd say the Minnesota Vikings 42-21, and then they have a bye week, and they don't have a bye week, but they'll play tonight. The Las Vegas Raiders on the road. Drew Code Sports Talk. Cody from there is a big Raiders fan, so I know he'll be watching the Monday Night Football game a little bit closer than the rest of us, and we'll talk about the Falcons game a little later on. Falcons are a definition of just drafting best available and disregarding team needs. Accurate. That was the most accurate comment ever about the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely.
Jeanty Pittsburgh if Najee walks. That's a question from Chris DeLuca. I'll be honest. I don't think Jeanty falls to Pittsburgh though. I think he goes top 12.
He would fit really well in Pittsburgh. He would fit really good in Pittsburgh because I mean, think about these teams that have the identity of defense and running the football, and that would work for them, man. I mean, what if he went to Kansas City? Oh my God. Woo!
Oh no. Oh no. He's not going to go to Kansas City.
What
But
if he
the
goes to San
Chiefs,
Francisco? What if my guys get him? It's done. What if my guys get him? Oh man. Trade for him. Come on, John Lynch. Trade for him. Get him. Get him. He would Frank Gore again. He'd be Frank Gore. Do
Shannon,
it for me.
Shannon, you got
I get a jersey right now if that happened. I'd go NFL shop right then. Draft night, I'm going.
which you could use the Boom Broadcasting Fanatics link to get your apparel, or I mean, I don't know if it'd show up before Christmas, a late Christmas gift, if you will.
See, it works.
Chris going Giants, LOL.
They get rid of him like Saquon Barkley. They get rid of him
to a division rival.
So, Mr. Genty, how do you think you would fare on the free agent market? Then next thing you know, he goes to the Cowboys, and I'll be like, whoa. Nah, Jerry don't want that dude. Jerry ain't that dumb. No, Jerry's not that smart. I mean, he's not that smart.
That is up for debate. You mentioned the Chiefs. Maybe if they would pull the trigger and get Nash and Genty, that would be scary. But what is scary in the present right now is Patrick Mahomes. He has a high ankle sprain, suffered in yesterday's game in Cleveland. And usually a high ankle sprain would put you on the shelf. Micah Parsons earlier this year missed 4 games with a high ankle sprain. And so the Chiefs missing out on Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, obviously, best player in the NFL, obviously, the most valuable player on that team. Dude, looking at what the Chiefs have in front of them, they are 13-1. They have a 4-game lead over the Broncos. They've clinched their division, so they have no fear about losing their division. They're 2 games up on the Buffalo Bills right now for the number 1 seed. I'll be honest, I'm at least keeping Patrick Mahomes out this upcoming game against the Houston Texans. And I don't know if I'd play him the final 2 games at Pittsburgh or at Denver if there's any risk of him not being okay.
Yeah, give him the dress rehearsal the game before week 18. Probably give him a dress rehearsal beforehand, but I wouldn't play him against Houston because right now Houston's not having the best of times right now. And I think a Carson Wentz would be okay against the defense. I think he'd be okay. Not great, he'd be okay. So, I mean, I'm still going to be watching the Chiefs to make sure that what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing because, Lord have mercy, Patrick Mahomes has played pretty much every game since he started, pretty much every game. So it's very rare that he misses games. So that's the credit to that offensive line and also the credibility of him being able to improvise as a quarterback as well, too. So I don't see the need to rush him. Let him heal. You're not in desperation mode. But yet, still, you don't want him cold. You don't want him getting ring rust. You don't want him not, sitting too long. So, I mean, I would say probably don't rush him back because you're in good position, but don't sit him too long.
Yeah, please, especially seeing that the game is Saturday against Houston, playing him on just 6 days from game to game. That would be really dumb. That would be really, really dumb to risk. I mean, your playoffs right there on Patrick Mahomes playing almost a meaningless game against the Houston Texans. And it's interesting because the Chiefs also, right before we went on air, this news broke within the last hour. The Kansas City Chiefs waiving former first-round draft pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the running back. Who is honestly falling on the depth chart. Isaiah Pacheco's above him. Samaje Perine is above him. Carson Steele's above him. The Chiefs even brought back Kareem Hunt to go above Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Of all people, bringing back Kareem Hunt to Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, Edwards-Helaire's out. They're hoping that Hollywood Brown can be activated from IR to play in this Houston Texans game on Saturday. So it's interesting. You're moving some stuff around on offense, but yeah, I would trust Carson Wentz enough to play that Houston game and then play the Christmas game on 4 days rest. They literally have a terrible schedule. Cleveland Sunday, Houston Saturday, and then Pittsburgh on Wednesday. That's like 3 games within, 10 days? You don't want to risk Patrick Mahomes there.
Yeah, that's the price you pay for being a man right there, though, for being a man in the league. Because everybody wants to see Carson. They want to see him on Christmas Day. They don't want to see Carson Wentz on Christmas Day. They don't want to see that. But with that being said, they didn't expect for him to get hurt either. Like, the NFL didn't expect for him to be hurt either. So still, do what's best for your team, and don't rush him back so quickly because you're not in desperation mode.
And Chris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, legendary fantasy bust. I'm sure if you guys are needing fantasy football advice, Sideline Savants on Boom Broadcasting drops Wednesdays at noon. Just like Jason's 3 from Deep NBA podcast dropped today at noon. Just like Shannon takes over Tuesday and Fridays at noon with Quick Hits. Just like Chris DeLuca himself takes over noon for Dugout Debrief, the baseball podcast. I mean, we have your noons covered here on Boom Broadcasting, and we'll see if Carson Wentz has to cover in for an injured Patrick Mahomes. But that's not only the big injury that's happened and was announced this weekend. The Detroit Lions losing not 1 but 2 players to injury. They lost Lynn McNeil, the defensive tackle. He'll be out for the season, but also due to a torn ACL, by the way. Starting corner Carlton Davis fractured his jaw, but Carlton Davis has the potential to return this year. Somebody who doesn't is David Montgomery. David Montgomery suffering an MCL injury, and he will miss the rest of the season. And so that is what's happening. He is getting a second opinion based on, is it going to be out for the entire playoffs as well? Shannon, this is a huge blow. I know they have Jahmyr Gibbs, and Chris, we're the king of sports yapping. So Shannon, yap to me a little bit. What do you think about this injury to David Montgomery?
This is not good. This is not good. One of the reasons why Jared Goff has been having the success that he's been having is because the running game has been intact. Once again, it's like we were talking about beforehand with Genty and Hunter. The running games are very important still in football. There's no need, just because it's a passing league now, just because the NFL is a passing league, does not mean that the running game is obsolete. That does not mean that the running game is not important. It has been important for the Detroit Lions. I got Jahmyr Gibbs on my fantasy football team. So he helped me out. He helped me out this week. Not by much, but he helped me out. But this is going to be significant for Detroit going through the playoffs because their offense has just been putting people in coffins. They've been beating everybody down. Their offense has been tough, except for last week. But this is not helping their offense. And they're getting hurt at the wrong time. This is the time where they should be recovering. They should be having their guys coming back. They should be having guys cycling back. But now they're getting hurt right at the playoffs. And that's unfortunate. You don't plan for things like that. But, Dan Campbell's going to have to dig and put guys in there. They're going to have the next man up mentality. So this is not good, but Detroit's not completely out of it. But we'll see.
And they're not completely out of it because they have been playing good ball. The Detroit Lions are 12-2. They just lost their first game in like 11 games, 10 games. Like, it's absolutely wild. 11 games. Beating the Cardinals in week 3, going all the way and beating the Green Bay Packers before losing to 6 to Buffalo. By the way, again, calling last week on Out of Pocket, being the lone wolf right there, that the Buffalo Bills. You guys didn't believe me being the lone wolf. And it's worked out for me. It's worked out for me. I need to calculate and see who won those picks because, hey, I got 2 over you guys. But, yeah, Detroit, they've relied a lot on the 2 running back system. But one thing about this team that is really impressive is when the run game hasn't worked, St. Brown's worked. When St. Brown hasn't worked, Jameson Williams has worked. When Jameson hasn't worked, Sam Laporta's worked. And if not, the defense is doing wonders, especially with, heck, we don't even talk about all the injuries to the Detroit Lions, especially on defense. Like Aiden Hutchinson out, Alim McNeil out, Derek Barnes out, Alex Anzalone out, Jack Campbell's missed some time, Carlton Davis is now out, Malfon was out. Like, they're racking up some injuries too on defense, and hopefully these injuries don't hurt a special year for Detroit, Shannon.
Let's hope not, because they've been playing really good football. They've been in command of the NFC, and so, but teams like Philadelphia are going to be chomping at the bit. They're going to be happy, seeing that happening there. So we got to be careful with these teams that are starting to emerge.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Detroit, we'll see what you cook up. But I know the Detroit Lions, even if they are sitting a little pretty in their division, they will be looking at tonight's Monday Night Football games, one of which being their NFC North rivals, the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Chicago, being led by rookie quarterback Caleb Williams, has yet to win a road game. He is 0-6. Granted, that has been a lot of Matt Eberflus as well, but they're playing a red-hot Minnesota Vikings team. We didn't expect Minnesota to be good with J.J. McCarthy, and then J.J. McCarthy got hurt, and then we really didn't expect them to be 11-2 with Sam Darnold, who's getting another chance at a playing career in Minnesota. So we got the number 1 overall pick, the rookie Caleb Williams, against Sam Darnold, a former first-round pick in his own right, having a very big redemption season. Stephon Gilmore is questionable right now for the Minnesota Vikings, and so is DeAndre Swift for the Chicago Bears. 2 very key aspects to each team. Minnesota having a different kind of season than Chicago. Minnesota has won 6 straight. Chicago has lost 7 straight, and Chicago will not make the playoffs. So I was wrong on the NFC North winner. But Shannon, I'll see if your prediction ages well for tonight's Monday Night Football game. How do you see this one going?
They're playing the Bears. You're in Minnesota. Next.
I hate how you dismiss that so quickly. And I will say this. Chicago could play spoilers tonight. I'm just waiting for that ball to drop, but I've been waiting for it all season. Minnesota is a tough place to play. And Chicago may not win out the entire year because they got Minnesota on the road tonight. They got the Detroit Lions on a short week on Sunday, and then they turn around and play the Seattle Seahawks next Thursday, and then they finish the year at the Green Bay Packers. So the Bears have a brutal schedule. If DeAndre Swift can't make it, that'll be even worse. So yeah, Minnesota is currently favored in this game. Shannon, I'm taking Minnesota by 16, even if they're only favored by 7. Do you think it's going to be in the same range?
I think it'll be close. I think you're right. I'm going with you on that one. I hate it. I thought that this NFC North, I knew it was going to be a gauntlet. I knew it was, but I didn't think that it would be Minnesota being a part of that gauntlet. I figured they would be better than Chicago would have been. I figured that, you see the name Sam Darnold and it's like, forget about this guy. But Sam Darnold actually has a squad around him, so that's going to help him out a lot. Shout out to the lady that I met over in coaches who was a big Minnesota fan, and I bit my tongue that whole time when she was talking about how Minnesota was going to do well. I bit my tongue because I was like, you know, who your quarterback is, right? And now I'm not seeing that lady in a minute, but if I do see her, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to admit when I was wrong. You know what? Your squad is out there hurting people, you know, and namely Chicago. And unfortunately, they're going to meet that buzzsaw tonight. So, yeah.
And yeah, you're be like, you know what? That's on me. That's my bad. My bad. My bad. Chris saying Bears finally lost a game normally last week, honestly. And wasn't Matt Eberflus. Like, if Matt Eberflus wasn't the coach, they could have done so much better this year. And Chris said he called the Bears losing out when they lost that failed Mary to Washington. And he's right. I mean, they've lost 7 straight. Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots. So a couple of what could have been gimmies, but then the Packers, the Vikings, the Lions, the 49ers even. Like, it's not been fun to be a Bears fan this year. I'm sorry, but I don't think I jinxed you guys. It's just the Bears. And again, we don't flex Monday night games. That is a possibility. But we do have the Atlanta Falcons. If you guys have seen Dom from the It Doesn't Matter podcast, he's been on here a couple times. The Las Vegas Raiders, Cody's team from Drew Code Sports Talk. The Raiders at 2-11 hosting the Atlanta Falcons. It's really between the Raiders and the Giants, it appears, for the first overall draft pick, potentially getting the Heisman winner, Travis Hunter. Maybe Shadur Sanders, maybe Cam Ward. There's a lot of options right here. Atlanta's favored on the road by 6.5 points as they try to win a very weak NFC South. So as I flash Jason's prediction for the Vikings to win by 32 points, the disrespect. Shannon, Falcons, Raiders. Do you think the Raiders tank for whoever they're going for? And do you think the Falcons help their playoff standing? Or do you think it's the opposite and the Vegas Raiders play spoiler?
I think that Atlanta's going to have good Kirk Cousins show up tonight. I'm going to take the Falcons, but I'm not going to take them by 32 points. I'm going to take them by 10 because the Raiders are going to play. But I think at the end of the day, Atlanta's going to make some mistakes as well, too, to keep the Raiders in it. But then they'll slam the door in the fourth quarter. So it'll be a 10-point win.
And the Raiders are set to start Desmond Ridder against the Falcons. So.
No revenge game.
Hear me out.
Nope.
Hear me out.
Nope.
There's a revenge game for Desmond Ridder and the Las Vegas Raiders. I know Shannon doesn't want to hear it.
Nope.
I know that my dad doesn't want to hear it because he doesn't want the Giants to have the number 1 pick. But hear me out. I think Vegas wins. And it's because Desmond has a revenge game. But it's also because we just talked about the Falcons not wanting to use Bijan Robinson. You know who the Raiders are wanting to use? Brock Bowers. And you also have Jacoby Myers, who's stepping up now because Devontae Adams is out of the building. So with the lights on them, Kirk Cousins doesn't show up on Monday Night Football. Jason and I agree the Raiders win the game, helping Tampa get closer to clinching the NFC South. It'll probably be decided at the very end of the year, but that would be a 2-game advantage. And Atlanta's dropped 4 straight. They're not playing good football right now. They got destroyed by the Vikings. They lost to the Chargers. They lost to the Broncos. They got destroyed by the Broncos. Their last win came against the Cowboys. That was their last win. So it's not entirely crazy that the Raiders at home, by the way, would beat the Falcons. Now, if it was in Atlanta, different story. But yeah, give me the Vegas Raiders pulling off the upset by 4. That's my prediction in the, and I quote, the mid versus terrible game. Mid loses to the terrible in an upset. And that'll be your Monday Night Football lineup. We also have Monday Night Raw, Mouth Off with Mike with the nightcap tonight, immediately following Monday Night Raw. I don't know who shows up. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe you say a name. Maybe somebody will appear. Mouth Off with Mike. If you haven't watched the nightcap yet, he brings the wrestling action to life. We only have a couple more, actually 3 more Monday Night Raws before Monday Night Raw moves to Netflix to start the new year, January 6th. So catch the final few episodes of Monday Night Raw on the USA Network while you can. And while you're waiting for the nightcap tonight, you can also listen to 3 from Deep by Jason earlier today. The Gridiron Address was dropped yesterday that recapped a lot of these NFL games in depth and previewed the Sunday Night Football game so you can see who was right and who was wrong. And there were a lot of content dropped last week, including Quick Hits by Podcast Smitty, which you can also catch the newest episode tomorrow at noon, where he'll probably talk a lot about the Heisman Trophy, and along with several other hot sports topics. But guys, I appreciate y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Out Pocket with Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting. And don't worry, Shannon didn't have to host because the Cowboys did prevail. But guys, for Shannon, for Michael, this has been Out Pocket, and we'll catch you back here for the next show tomorrow at 5:30.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.